Penn State's season moves on as they host Nebraska on Saturday. It's a 4 o'clock start at Beaver Stadium. It's senior day, and maybe it's time for a little bit of reflection about where Penn State is as opposed to where they could be. An awful lot of talk and the noise in the last couple of weeks about play calling and about the offensive system and the offensive line and why can't they run the ball and how close they were to really getting the chance to win the conference and maybe play for the national championship, all of that stuff. But a couple of things that kind of on the macro level come into play, I think, on Saturday. Number one is the opponent is Nebraska, which is a program that has at least as much history and tradition of success as Penn State does. And look at where Nebraska is right now. They're 4-6. They've lost 2 in a row. They got bombed last week by Minnesota, which ran for 400 yards against one of the programs in the country that used to have just tremendous pride and tradition in defense. And that's where Nebraska is right now. New athletic director. At the end of the season, it's going to be a new head coach, so it's a lame duck situation they're in right now. It doesn't seem like they have the recruiting base in Nebraska to be what Nebraska football was for years and years and really decades. It looks like whoever becomes the new head coach is going to have a very difficult job. So compare that and contrast that to where Penn State is now. And the other thing to think about is it's going to be senior day. It's going to be this senior class for Penn State and probably Saquon Barkley, who will be eligible for the NFL draft, probably their last time at Beaver Stadium. And these are a bunch of kids who came to Penn State at a time when it was a much different situation than it is now, when the NCAA sanctions were still very much in play. It was still a limping program that had been that had enormous barriers placed in its way, and look how far they've come in the last 4 or 5 years. So maybe it's time for Penn State fans. I realize I'm being a little unrealistic here, but maybe it's time for Penn State fans and people around the program to be a little reflective and kind of appreciate where Penn State is in contrast to where Nebraska is. That's where we are. I'm Mike Gross for LancasterOnline.com.